Welcome back to the Deep Dig Sports Pod. I'm your host, Drew. My other host right over there.
What's up? It's D. Good to see you again. Be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. Drop some comments below. Let us know your thoughts because this week we are talking NFL football, baby.
Yeah, we're just going to go through kind of the biggest storylines and most interesting games we thought coming out of the week. And you want to go ahead and start us off?
I think we start off with a game that we laughed at and then it ended up being a little closer than we thought. Let's go ahead and do New York Giants, Cleveland Browns. Just give me your thoughts, basics from this game.
I mean, for most of that game, you're thinking, God, they got to bench Deshaun, right? Like, it's bad. And I think you're in a situation kind of where Dave Canales on the Panthers was like nervous where, am I going to lose this locker room? Am I going to lose this team? And I think Deshaun did start to show a little bit of life, even though they still lost the game. Came back, got a couple touchdowns, and I think my biggest takeaway from both sides of the ball is Malik Nabers is a guy. He's the number one wide receiver. He's him. And I saw someone tweet out like Giants fans are nervous that Malik Nabers is making Daniel Jones look like a good quarterback. So you start to get like, okay, is he going to play so good that Daniel Jones gets committed to for another year?
Well, I think again, there's not a whole lot of pivot room for this New York Giants team. You have to roll with Daniel Jones. And so I think the thing with that is you have to just play to whatever Malik Nabers wants, you have to do. I mean, this is the guy who realistically, if he keeps up this trajectory, I think he is the most talented receiver, obviously, on this team, but he might be the most talented receiver this franchise has ever seen. And that's considering they had a young Odell. They've had receivers in the past, but he might be the most talented that they've ever seen of this franchise. And so he's a guy who's like super fiery. He wants to win. A couple weeks ago, he was like pissed off at himself for dropping like a game-winning touchdown, and he was like, "It should have been me. I should have went out and did this. I'm sorry to my vets. I'm sorry." And he's like everything that you would want in this locker room, but that could change very quickly if it's a guy in Daniel Jones who he knows has his ups, has his downs. If he has more downs than ups, you could be like, you could see Malik Nabers start to turn and be like, what are we doing with this joke? Like, get him out of here or get me off of this team.
Yeah, and I think that's where the Browns are feeling like Deshaun Watson, how much does the team really believe in him still? And there's guys I think that you thought would perform better. Like Jerome Ford is a guy that I thought was going to have a pretty good season, and he's kind of struggling out of the gate. And that run game just isn't really taking a lot off of Deshaun's plate. Jerome Ford had 10 carries, 37 yards, and I know they were trying to throw from behind a lot, but man, and outside of Amari Cooper, what do these guys really even have? They have Jerry Jeudy out there getting 4 catches, Elijah Moore, Jordan Atkins. Like, they're really depleted right now. And it's a year where the defense really, we felt like they could carry them and play run the ball a lot, play conservative, but no, it just hasn't worked out exactly how they were thinking.
But I mean, it's the thing, like, that's the thing with this Cleveland Browns. It's like, okay, well, we're going to stop the run and we're going to make Deshaun Watson play quarterback. And Deshaun Watson is not a good quarterback. I mean, let's just be flat out and blunt, like, off the field issues aside, like, right now, he is not even all that stuff. If it was just, hey, Deshaun Smith coming in here and playing like this off of this contract, you'd be pissed. And then add in all of the off the field issues. Like, he is just not a good quarterback. And that needs to change very, very quickly. I don't know if you follow or have seen any of John Fanta. He's like a college basketball guy, but he apparently is a Cleveland Browns guy. He makes some of the funniest videos where he's like, I'm done. It's here. It's another Sunday. And it's like, his videos are hilarious, but he like pretty much speaks for the sentiment around the Cleveland Browns right now. Everyone is pretty disappointed as far as the deal that you made with Deshaun Watson, the inability to pivot. I mean, you're in cap hell with Deshaun Watson. And I just don't see how Deshaun Watson gets out of it. Like, I don't see him improving much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're stuck there unless legally they're able to get out of his contract some way, but we'll see. Next game I want to talk about is the Jaguars getting destroyed by the Bills. I mean, I'll give it to the Bills, not just Josh Allen, but that defense looks really good. And DeMar Hamlin got his first career interception. Props to him. Trevor Lawrence is a guy that people wanted to crown as the next guy. Oh, once in a generation talent. He's going to carry this franchise. He's like Peyton Manning, and he just not has lived up to the hype. I know he was getting like Daniel Jones comparisons before this season. I haven't really believed in this guy. He throws a lot of interceptions. What do you feel about what we took away from this Trevor Lawrence performance?
It sucks that they just paid this guy like that. If I'm looking at it, the landscape of these quarterbacks, they have just not look at Tua. I mean, Tua has his own situation, obviously, with his health. But even then, I don't think I would have paid Tua this year. I would have done another prove it contract and it would have been way discounted because look at what happened. But I don't see the rush to pay these guys because if you look at the long run, they are not going to live up to being I need to make more money than Dak Prescott. I need to make more money than that. Like Trevor Lawrence hasn't really done much since he's hit the league. Like he has been such a flash in the pan as far as like having more flash than substance. And I mean, you could say, hey, it's the Jags. At least he keeps the Jags in a national conversation somewhat. But realistically, like the Jags can go off the face of the earth, and I don't think a whole lot of people would notice. You know what I mean? They don't really contend much as far as winning. The biggest thing besides Trevor Lawrence has been Urban Meyer, which was pretty crazy. But I just don't. Again, this is a team where I don't know where they can go from here. Because a couple years ago, it seems like they were stocked with talent, but where is that? Like they're paying a bunch of guys that like Christian Kirk, like these massive contracts, but no one has ever lived up to that top flight billing and went to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, and here's the thing too is like their roster's built. Like it's not like, oh, we're building on this roster, we're hoping to add some pieces. Like this is the roster. It's set. Yeah. Like this is the team that should be competing. They should be up there top 4 in the AFC. Like, and they're just not looking up to it. They're not living up to the hype. They got ETN. They've invested in defensive linemen a couple times, some linebackers. Like it's just weird with this team. And is it Trevor Lawrence? Is it the coach? Is it just all around like these pieces aren't cohesive? It's just a weird situation where you would think at this point in Trevor's career and in Doug Peterson's career, they would be competing against this Bills team, at least giving them a fight, and it's just not even close.
Oh, well, I mean, look at like this is like the league will tell you what they think of Trevor Lawrence, and no receivers are clamoring to get to Jacksonville. And you can blame it on the market, but like
I had to overpay Christian Kirk a lot.
Yeah. And that's not what happens with A1 quarterbacks. I mean, look at what happened this past offseason with CJ Stroud. Stephon Diggs is forcing his way out of Buffalo and ends up on the Houston Texans and is like, yep, this is perfect. I want to be here. Like, if I was like Brandon Ayuk and you wanted to go somewhere that was like, oh, okay, well, they could win and they need to be in the AFC and blah, 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 right? He had these things that he needed. Why wouldn't Jacksonville be on your list? Because, they supposedly have an A1 guy, but like they don't have an A1 guy. They don't have guys they don't have a guy in Trevor Lawrence where you would take a discount to go play with him because he's so immensely talented. And the league has shown that over and over again with their inability to get top tier receivers at like discounts for him.
Yeah, and on the Bills side, I think this is just kind of typical Bills. Like they'll look unbeatable, amazing some weeks, and then some weeks they just shit the bed. And we're never gonna know which Bills team we get in the playoffs until we get there. So I think
the Bills are the classic. We're gonna look amazing against dog shit teams, and then when someone comes to smack us in the mouth, we are going to fumble the ball. We are going to do weird things that end up losing us the game. That is like classic Bills.
All right. Well, next game I want to talk about is the team that keeps beating the Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Falcons. The Chiefs are 2 penalties and literally a toe away from being 0-3. And I know people were say Falcons had a shot. They were able to drive. They got They got defensive pass interference twice on that final drive. Listen, getting a first down from a defensive pass interference is not the same as getting one to put you on the 1 yard line on first down. That completely changed the game. The refs continue to bail out the Chiefs in crazy fashion that it's so obvious. And I think it was even obvious that those were makeup calls for the Falcons on that last drive, because it didn't even look like pass interference on that second one. Can the Chiefs be beaten with the refs on their side like this? I'm just going to throw it out there in that way, because what we've seen is a lot of offensive holding calls not getting called. Their right tackle jumps every fucking play. They're getting a call on defensive pass interference call that's not getting called the same way against them in the 2 weeks later. So what do teams need to do to beat this Kansas City Chiefs team?
I'm getting sick of week in and week out having that conversation. Like, oh, it's the ref show, it's blah, blah, blah. And I think last week that was completely fine. Like, hey, it is what it is. Like that was a pass interference as far as that, like the Bengals game, right? And that was like a pretty obvious pass interference call that people want to shape into oh, it's the ref show and the Chiefs always get the call.
I'd argue it wasn't that obvious. I don't think it was.
It was pretty fucking obvious. The dude ran downhill and hit him before the fucking ball was there.
I think he went for the ball.
Well, no shit, but he went through the guy to get the ball.
I don't know. He was playing ball. He was playing ball.
He was playing ball through the guy. You can't do that. That's a pretty obvious pass.
You guys let us know. Who are you saying in the comments? Was that pass interference on the Bengals or not? But
it was. I'm telling you, it was. If you don't, you're stupid. I will fight you in the comments. So go ahead and comment. Yep. But anyways, and the thing that scares me about the Chiefs is they are not playing their A game. At none of these 3 weeks have they played a game where you're like, that was all the Chiefs. The Chiefs left it all on the field. I'm arguing they probably played like their C+, B- game in these 3 weeks, and they're only going to get better. Because Hollywood's going to come in and add another element of speed. They're going to get healthier at running back down the stretch. And Pat Mahomes is going to obviously turn it on and find Travis Kelce a hell of a lot more when it really matters. And so this is I think they're going to end up cruising to the AFC Championship, where they're going to find a team that, whether it be the Baltimore Ravens or I don't think the Bengals are going to make it that far. Maybe the Houston Texans make a big deep run that is just weathered and beaten because they're going against the AFC. And I think they walk easily into the Super Bowl. I think that this Chiefs team only has the sky is the limit for them. And they could be one of the best teams that we've ever seen, just based off of they're winning these games that are so tight knit, and they're playing C+, B- games.
Here's the thing on my end, though, as a scorned 49ers fan from the Super Bowl, this Chiefs team is crazy unlikable, because obviously you got Mahomes, who's the best quarterback in the league, most dominant. You're like, how much are we going to let this guy win? He keeps winning. It's frustrating. And then you have Rashee Rice out there dominating, who's their best weapon right now. And he's literally has 8 counts on him right now, and he shouldn't be playing. And then you have the commentators like Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift of it all. And then you have the commentators, every time Carson Steele gets 2 yards, they're like, oh my God, this Carson Steele guy is amazing. They're just glazing Carson Steele. And it's just annoying when you know they're going to win. And I feel like they kind of don't deserve it.
But it's also, that's how good they are. It's again, how I'm saying, that's what good teams do. They beat teams that they're supposed to beat. And by all means, they were supposed to beat the Atlanta Falcons. And I mean, we'll go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and say it. The Falcons are fun. They're going to be a fun team to watch this entire season. I think Kirk Cousins is only going to get better down the stretch, because he's going to shake the rust off, get a little bit more mobility than he's had over these past 3 weeks. And I think they're a fun team. But by all means, they should not have beaten the Chiefs. And I think that all is right with the world, and the end of it, like it all shakes out. Like if you look at it, that was not a game that the Kansas City Chiefs lose, and that's what you do when you're a good team. You beat teams that you're supposed to beat.
The thing is, though, the Falcons should have won that game. If that gets called defense pass interference and they're on the one, they could score a touchdown, and then who knows what happens. But I think it sets the Falcons up in a great position in a game where they played really well to win that game. And that's
But
what I'm
then the
saying. That's
Falcons
why it's
also
frustrating.
screwed them. It's like you can do that, but then also you screwed yourself later by making that dumb decision to like throw that out like or the what was it like a
They lined up in like a T and ran out a wide on the last play on fourth down. So yeah, it was a stupid decision on their part.
So it's like you do these dumb things to shoot yourself in the foot. Also, before half, they have that thing like you know what I mean. Like you just shoot yourself in the foot, and that's what you can't do against this Kansas City Chiefs team.
But that's every team. Every team in the league does a stupid thing here and there. But
yeah,
it gets piled. It gets piled on.
City Chiefs team.
It gets piled on when the refs are helping the Chiefs as well.
I'm already sick of like hearing about the Kansas City refs. It is what it is. Like at some point, you just got to be like, okay, well, maybe it's just because they're good. They're putting themselves because that happens with every game. Every game, if you look at it through the lens of, I am going to see the New York Giants get a call. You're going to see them get calls. You know what I mean? It's going to happen.
All right. Well, let's move on. I'm sure the comments going to have a field day with that one, but
yeah, they could eat it.
We love you guys. Commanders beat the Bengals. Subscribe. Commanders, is Jayden Daniels the best quarterback out of this draft class right now?
He is him. He is him. And I was not expecting Jayden Daniels to be the guy because you look at it on paper. Oh, what happened?
Nothing.
You look at it on paper coming in like he had one amazing season that LSU really force-fed him and was like, hey, we're out of contention, but we are going to have a Heisman winner. We're going to pump the shit out of Jayden Daniels' numbers. You look at what happened when he moved from Arizona State to LSU. The guys were talking shit about him, saying like all these different things, throwing his stuff in the trash. So it's like, okay, well, what made them so mad? Why they do that? And so it's like, and he has that on top of it where he's like a running quarterback. How successful is he going to be? He's really skinny. He has the weird elbows. Like, is he going to be durable? And man, he looks amazing coming out of the gates. He looks like he's on a whole nother speed compared to everyone else on the field. He showed off his arm in this game. He really put it out there. 2 really good balls to Terry McLaurin that like he just dropped him right in the bucket, man. Like he showed off the arm strength and the accuracy. And it was just like one of those things like, dude, I think we got a guy here. And then too, he said, it's going to be really fun coming down the line when the trivia question, who was his first touchdown pass to an O lineman? Pretty wild. I think that Jayden Daniels has all of the characteristics to be a franchise guy on top of him just being a very, very good person. Like you could see it genuinely. That team loves him. That team rallies around him. And he has a lot of say in that locker room, despite being a rookie.
Yeah, this is a team that I think should have a chip on their shoulder because they got everyone saying before the season, oh, well, Jayden Daniels doesn't have any weapons. And I'm looking at the roster like they have Terry McLaurin, who's like top 15, maybe top 10 when he's at his best wide receiver in the league. Just talent-wise, Brian Robinson is a solid back. They have Austin Eckler, Zach Ertz there, who's, like, been injured before. But, yeah, McCaffrey. They have the other McCaffrey, who's, playing great in the slot. So I think you got to take some offense to that and put a chip on your shoulder. They're playing really well. And keeping Terry rather than trying to trade him for future draft choices, big ups to the Washington front office for that. But, yeah, Jayden McDaniels went 21 for 23 as a running quarterback. Like, that's insane and not put the ball in danger at all. He hasn't thrown a pick yet this season. So that's impressive.
And on top of that, you started to see him get smarter with his scrambles throughout these 3 weeks. And they even said it on the broadcast, like, oh, look at that slide. Like there were times where he was very smart, where he had 4th and 1, 3rd and 3, where he gets the short yardage on the outside and then he goes down. not taking added punishment, because that was the first 2 weeks. I'm like, all right, this guy's just taking shot after shot. He can't keep his fucking helmet on. Like, he's adapted to the game, and I think he's only going to get smarter as he goes down this season. And I think he is going to be the guy who can, like, Lamar Jackson-esque, where I'm going to rip it and then I'm going to get down. I'm not going to take any added punishment. I'm not going to try to lower my shoulder. I'm going to be smart with this because I understand that this team is really, it's going to be all me moving forward.
Yeah, and on the Bengals side, starting 0-3, I think you just got to already say, like, they're not going to make playoffs. This is, I mean, they got a tough draw, like, this early part of the season, but it took a while for Jamar Chase to, like, get back into the rhythm of things. I think they really fucked up by letting Mixon walk, or getting rid of Mixon and going with who is
Brown.
there with Zach Moss and Chase Brown. Like, they just don't bring the same pop. I know Chase Brown had some good runs this last game, but it's not the same as Joe Mixon. That defense is not holding up. You're giving up 38 to a rookie quarterback at the end of the day, and you're supposed to be AFC contenders. Like, I really don't. I'm really excited to see how the season ends this year for the playoff races, because I feel like every team has come down to earth, and it's kind of like getting even across the board right now, where teams that you think, yeah, they should be dog walking this team, like, are losing these games, like the Bengals, the Ravens, the Dolphins, obviously without Tua. So teams that we thought would be kind of leading the pack are starting to fall behind. Even the Texans losing to the Vikings.
Yeah, and I just think, like, it's really hard to be a good team in the NFL, obviously. And this Bengals team, everyone had them pegged as, like, okay, they're going to be potential or perennial contenders for the next foreseeable, like, 12 years, even. Like, as long as they have Joe Burrow, they are going to, that's their window. Joe Burrow's career is going to be their window. And it's just gone to, like, prove that, like, Joe Burrow can't do it all by himself. And if you do have him all, and he doesn't even have all, like, it's not all him. Realistically, they have two really good receivers. Jamar Chase might be the best receiver in the entire NFL. And T. Higgins is a pretty good, backup, if you want to call him that. But you just, it takes a lot. And I just don't know what is going to happen or what needs to change. Maybe it's going to be a coaching change. Maybe it's going to be something on the defensive coordinator needs to change, but it just seems like something has gone stagnant with the Cincinnati Bengals, and they need something that is just going to bring a little bit more life into this scenario, because you just see this, like, from the last year to this year, where it's like, oh, okay, Joe Burrow earlier this season can't pick up a water bottle. His wrist is too hurt. Then he goes out and slings it, but they still lose against the Chiefs. And then this week, it's like they just had no chance, because every time Jayden Daniels and the Washington Commanders go out there, they're scoring a touchdown. On every drive that they went, besides the knee, they went out and scored a touchdown. So it's like, we can't compete with that. Like, how are we going to do this? So it's just one of those things, like, what is going to be the answer for the Cincinnati Bengals team? I have no idea.
Yeah, let's talk the number one pick of the draft this last year, Caleb Williams. They lose to the Colts, and what a quarterback battle, where Caleb Williams throws 50 times for 360 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. And on the other end, good old Anthony Richardson, 10 for 20, 167 yards, and 2 picks. And I don't know which one to start with, because one, you're like, yeah, Caleb Williams, exciting stuff. He's starting to put it together, but is the team really getting him in the best position? And the other side, you're thinking, Colts putting him in the best position, giving him everything, and he's just fucking it up. They're winning despite him. They're losing because of him. Who do you want to talk about the most, Anthony Richardson or Caleb Williams?
I think let's start off with Caleb Williams, because Caleb Williams, I think, what did you see the video week 1 of Shane Waldron calling the play, and he's like shaking as he has the play sheet in his hand?
Yeah.
It's like, yo, this coaching staff, I have no idea why. I understand why Ryan Poles, like, wanted to keep continuity with the Chicago Bears, but knowing that you had one shot with Caleb Williams, like, if this year does not go well, they are going to be searching for a new quarterback, which means for a new head coach, which means by proxy, they're going to be searching for a new offensive coordinator. Why not cut bait and go out and get a guy who is an offensive coach who can actually help out your quarterback? And that way, you're tied to the head coach is tied to the quarterback. And that way they can grow together. And there's no like, okay, I really need to do well his rookie season. Otherwise, I'm gone. You can just grow with him. Hey, you know what? We're going to rely on Caleb. We're here for partnership for the next at least 3 to 5 years. Instead, you hit your wagon to Eberflus, and it's just not working out. We just seen that Eberflus just might not be that guy when it comes to being a head coach. He might just be a great defensive coordinator somewhere else. But you should have made that decision this offseason instead of letting it play out, because it's hurting Caleb Williams and it's going to hurt his growth next year when he has to learn an entirely new offense. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, Caleb Williams is playing. He started to put together despite all of that shit. They, I think, put all the eggs in, like, DeAndre Swift is going to be a number one back when he's more of a rotation guy. He's not looking the same. They need to start giving the ball more to Rashawn Johnson. Roma Dunze started to break out this game. And then Keenan Allen's still hurt, right? So that kind of took back from the offense. And the way Shane Waldron's calling this is just not helping Caleb Williams be set up for success at all. They can't have a run game because of the way their linemen are playing, the way the running backs are playing. And then you're forcing your rookie quarterback to throw it 50 times in a game. That's ridiculous. He should never come close to 50 passes in a game this season.
Not as a rookie. Like, that's crazy. Like 50 pass attempts.
And it's not like this was like a 47 to 49 game. This is, was it 16 to 21? It's ridiculous.
A shootout, baby.
Yeah, I just think Shane Waldron's not the guy right now, and Eberflus is definitely not the guy. And it's exactly what I said coming into the season. How is a defensive-minded head coach going to handle Caleb Williams? And we see it's just not working out.
And it'd be different if you felt like if you went out, again, it feels different with D'Amico Ryans, who you brought in with the guy. You brought in D'Amico Ryans, and then his first draft, he drafts Will Anderson and CJ Stroud. And so, these guys are going to be tied together. You're not going to have, it wasn't a guy who already failed with one regime, and you're hoping that with this new quarterback, he's just going to save you. Like, it's different when you have that kind of stink on you, which Eberflus does.
Yeah, and for Anthony Richardson, Anthony Richardson has to be the biggest Will Levis fan ever, because he's the only reason that Anthony Richardson isn't getting shit on every week, because some of these throws he's making are just like the dumbest things you could possibly do. And they should be a playoff team. They should be not a playoff for sure, but a playoff contender. And I don't see how they're going to reach like 7 wins this season. I mean, Jonathan Taylor is dominant. The defense is looking good. And Anthony Richardson just can't get out of his own fucking way. And it's cool because, he throws it 50, 60 yards sometimes. Like, yeah, that's great, but he's not going to get you that consistently. And the lows are outweighing the highs right now.
But I mean, this is a guy who, coming into the NFL, was not a good quarterback. Like, he wasn't a good quarterback. He was a good athlete, but that doesn't, like, his potential does not equal success. And I don't understand how they thought, like, okay, we can build him into a good quarterback. I don't think that you learn how to be a good quarterback based off of coaching in the NFL. I think you already come in with some fundamentals and something to back it, some proof in college. Like, let's say Brock Purdy is a really good instance where Brock Purdy already had a lot of the fundamentals down, and Kyle Shanahan has just been coaching and putting him in the correct positions. Whereas with Anthony Richardson, you're just hoping that he can, like, okay, well, we're going to roll you out and hope that you can just make something happen, bro. Can you do that? And it's like, that's not your whole playbook. You can't just do that.
Yeah, I think we got to move on, because I could bash Anthony Richardson's play all the time. I mean, maybe he gets better. maybe he figures it out. It's technically his rookie year because he was hurt so much last year, but I just don't see it from being a franchise guy. But let's talk about the Panthers and Raiders because head coach Antonio Pierce seems to be the only guy that thought that they had a chance to be something this year because the way he's talking post game, like, oh, there's guys out there who made business decisions. There's going to be some changes. And I mean, I get what he's trying to build the culture, but in my mind, I'm kind of like, this was expected. Like the team's not that good. There's going to be games where you're getting blown out. And I feel like it's probably more embarrassing for him because it was the Panthers that blew him out. And they were getting talked about last week as the worst franchise in like all of sports. So how are you feeling about Antonio Pierce and his Raiders squad right now?
But I mean, it is true. Like what he's saying is true. Like there were dudes out there that made business decisions. If you've checked Twitter on it, everyone is saying it's Jack Jones that they're talking about.
Devontae sitting there kind of not happy.
Jack Jones had some pretty egregious ones, like where he just gave up and let the guy run fucking 10 more yards. It's pretty crazy. But I think like that's kind of what you need from a losing squad. Like you need someone to hold them accountable because at the end of the day, these are all grown ass men. These are professionals. You guys are getting paid millions of dollars and I'm expecting you to play like you have millions of dollars on the line, bro. Like, what are we doing here? Like, you're not going to embarrass me. Like, that's a reflection on him as a head coach. And he's a guy who takes pride in that. He wants them to be a reflection of him. And so if you're not doing that, I like the attitude. I like the calling out in the press conference.
Here's why I don't like it though. Is because then you have people going, oh, he's talking about Gardner Minshew. Oh, he's talking about this guy. Oh, he's talking about this guy. And that creates some bad press for your team. That creates a little bit of more turmoil, a little bit more should be going on that shouldn't be. Like, just literally go to the locker room and tell them what you told us. Like, I don't think you need to put everyone on blast through the media that way and not be direct. Like, say, oh, yeah, I think Jack Jones made some business decisions. I think Devontae made some business. But when you leave it vague, now fans are like, oh, Gardner Minshew, like, fuck this guy because he's over there trying to protect himself, not throw picks. Like, I think that's where I don't like it. And I think it is just Antonio Pierce, like, fighting and clawing to keep the job this year because I think this is potentially a one and done. And I think he has to know that in his mind.
Yeah, but I mean, counterpoint, if you're Gardner Minshew and you feel some type of way about it, it's probably because you did make a business decision. You know what I mean? It's probably because you did play like shit. So, like, okay, if you're going to go up to, like, Antonio Pierce and be like, oh, why'd you call me out? It's like, well, I didn't call you out, but you called yourself out. Like, if you're that guilty, bro, it's probably because you played like shit.
But, okay, counterpoint to that. say, okay, it was that way. How can you keep your locker room on your side if you're calling them out like that and you're just like you're kind of throwing them under the bus?
Good because they deserve it.
You're not winning.
You guys just lost to the fucking Carolina Panthers. Do you think I give a fuck about journeyman Gardner Minshew? You think I give a fuck about journeyman Jack Jones? Fuck them,
bro.
Like,
but
if they're gonna play like that,
okay. But here's the thing: you win 3 games. Guess what? They don't give a fuck about you, coach. They're gonna get rid of you. Like, they signed me to a 3-year they signed me to a 2-year like, they're going to get rid of the coach. They're going to be like, fuck this coach.
Who are they going to get? Who are the Raiders going to go out and get? Like, realistically, no one wants to be a coach for the Raiders. Like,
John
that kind of lost its sizzle moving forward because now you have
Coach Prime.
Hell no.
Coach Prime.
No.
Shador,
there's no
Coach
way Prime wants to go there. There's no way. They're going to have such a hard time finding a head coach. I think that Antonio Pierce has at least 2 years under his belt, and I think he can feel secure, like, with that because, I mean, again, what are you going to do? And plus, the Davis family broke. You're going to pay me to leave? Okay, cool. Pay me then. You don't got the money, bro. Like, what are you talking about? It was embarrassing. Let's talk Carolina Panthers, though.
The MVP, Andy Dalton.
The Red Rifle.
First quarterback this year to go 303 touchdowns. Chuba Hubbard looked like a dominant running back. Deontay Johnson looked like a number 1. Was Bryce Young the problem?
I don't think. Well, one, I think that obviously there's going to be a surge when you have, like, you see it when teams fire their head coach. You see it when teams switch the quarterback. It's like, okay, it's something new. Let's rally behind this guy. He's a ginger. We love it. Like, let's go ahead and do that. So I think that one, that happen. And two, Andy Dalton is a seasoned quarterback. Andy Dalton's been around. And I think that if you plug Andy Dalton onto the Chicago Bears, onto, let's say, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they win games, right? This team needed to prove something. They needed to prove that they weren't a joke. Dave Canales needed to prove that he wasn't a joke. So I think they put their all into beating this Raiders team that was probably underestimating the Carolina Panthers. Do I think that that's going to be something that's going to continue on? Probably not. But it's a really good showing when you really needed it as an organization to just quiet things down.
Would you trade Bryce Young right now?
I would, 100%.
I would trade him 100%. I think it's going to be such a long road for him to be the franchise quarterback for the Panthers now. And I just don't think you want to go through. I think trade him away. Another team, even for the sake just of Bryce Young himself, trade him to the Dolphins, trade him to somewhere else that's going to want him because people have been calling about him, and just let him go have a career. And I think the owner knows. The owner knows he doesn't want him at this point already. So why are we going to do this whole song and dance for another year, another 2 years of Bryce's career? Like, just let him go.
Especially the money that you're going to have to allocate to him. He was the number one pick in the draft. That does not come with like a cheap price tag. He is going to be paid a premium for a rookie. And you know how they're like, oh, rookies, you need to take advantage of that contract. He's still going to get paid a whole lot of money. So let's get him off of our books. Let's move some of this money and get what we can in return, because we've already waved the white flag and we said, this isn't our guy. And I don't think you could go back to that well. And it was really weird seeing the reports coming out after they made this move. Diana Rossini came out and was like, this is not a Ross and Rachel breakup. They're moving on from Bryce Young. They do not expect him to be the starter at all moving forward. And then afterwards, you're hearing, okay, well, there's 6 or 7 teams from Schefter calling and inquiring about the Carolina Panthers quarterback, Bryce Young. And Dave Canales has already come out and said, we will not be trading him. So are they just doing that to up the price? Because the longer that Bryce Young sits, the more that his value diminishes. So do it. Rip that Band-Aid.
I think too, if you're a team, like I think any other team in the league should be like, we have the number 1 pick in his second year on a shitty team that we could get on a bargain. Like if I'm the Niners, I'm sending a 4th round pick. Like if I'm a contender, I'm sending just to have him in your building to see like, oh, I know we can flip him for more later, or maybe he turns out to be our guy in the long run. Not for the Niners, I'm saying for just any other team in general. Like he'd be probably a good locker room presence to have and a good bargaining chip for later. So I think the Panthers kind of saw that they had value there and was like, wait, why do you all want him? Maybe we should keep him. Actually, I want him, so I think it threw them off.
Yeah. And I don't think that they told Bryce, like, I don't think the whole plan was we're going to sit Bryce Young for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or wait till the end of the season once we get out of contention, because Bryce Young looked devastated. Like after they made this announcement, he just looked completely down. And you don't do that if you're a guy who knows like, hey, it's best for me to sit, learn a little bit more, get some time under my belt, and then I'll come back and play later. It seemed like a guy like, hey, you're done here. And so why continue down that path if you're Bryce and if you're the Carolina Panthers? If I'm Bryce and 6 or 7 teams have called, I'm publicly saying like, I'm requesting a trade.
That's what I was just about to say. I was going to say, I'm stepping away from the team. I don't want to be a distraction. I'm requesting a trade.
Yep.
There's no point. There's no point to be there. I mean, yeah, they're developing him. They're letting him learn. But really, they just benched him. Like,
yeah,
they didn't think he had it. They benched him. Like, if I'm Bryce Young right now, I know the writing's on the wall. I'm not going to be here. Just leave. Just get out. Force their hand.
I mean, I could think of like 4 teams right off the rip that I think would be like, yeah, we'll take Bryce Young. The Seattle Seahawks, the New Orleans Saints. I would say the Giants, the Miami Dolphins, the Raiders. That's 5
Yeah.
teams right there.
Mm-hmm. I'd actually like to see him on the Raiders this season.
Yeah. And again, like just get like I think for Bryce it would be good just to get out of the situation, get away from the expectations, learn, and then go to a team that actually wants you.
All right. Last game we'll talk about the 49ers and the Rams. Everyone, moment of silence for the fucking 49ers week 3 because Juwan Jennings had the game of his life. Brock Purdy played lights out. The defense was terrible. The special teams was terrible. All-time collapse from Shanahan here. I mean, props to Matthew Stafford and those wide receivers for, gutting it out, making plays, but this was a game given away by the 49ers. So how did the 49ers lose that game?
Just like you said, like the Shanahan special. Defense gave up a bunch. Special teams, no one really gives a shit apparently still. And those were the 2 things that really came back to bite him in the ass. Like, and it also going into this game, a ton of injuries, but you did a pretty good job of overcoming those injuries for like the entire game. You were in control. Like you could have put this game away multiple different times. If Jake Moody hits that kick, you guys are within like that's it. You ice the game. You're good. He misses it.
You guys actually didn't like that decision. I kind of wanted a punt there.
He would have made it. Like he had the leg to do it.
I don't trust Jake Moody from 50 plus consistently though. Like let's just pin him deep. If they score, we still have more time to go back and score again. Like you put him in good field position.
But why do we draft this guy so high then if we're not going to use his one thing, which is his leg strength?
Because we've seen him since we drafted him. Like, he's not trusted.
But it's just like one of those things where that's the difference between Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, where McVay is going to scrape and claw, and if they're within striking distance, they are going to make a play to overtake you and somehow win the game. With Kyle Shanahan, it's we're going to get up and then we're going to scrape and claw and find our way to lose this motherfucker.
Yeah, and Ronnie Bell should no longer be on this roster. I don't know. Have we heard any news? Is he cut? Is he demoted to practice squad? Like, what Ronnie Bell watch right now? What's going on with him?
I have no idea. I think that was pretty ridiculous to have a play drawn up for Ronnie Bell. Obviously, get Chris Conley out there. Like Kyle Shanahan even said afterwards, like that was a play that we had Chris Conley run earlier in the game. So like we felt pretty comfortable running that with Ronnie Bell. And it's like, dude, just put Chris Conley out there.
Kyle Shanahan's a guy that can't get out of his own way. Like everyone's been saying for 2 weeks now, put Jacob Cowing in, let him get some play time. And Ronnie Bell continues to run out there, continues to drop balls, and continues to piss off 49ers fans. This game, I mean, that ball was actually perfectly placed. No, actually, my bad. Brock Purdy put that ball in a bad spot. He put it directly in Ronnie Bell's hands. That was the wrong throw to make. So this is on Brock Purdy, actually.
Brock Purdy did actually come out and say, like, I should have put a better ball on him. That's like on me. It can't be 100%. And it's like, damn, what a team guy. I love this guy. But you feel bad for him because he played a really good game. You feel bad for Juwan Jennings, who put the team on his back. And at what point do we start having the conversation about the defensive coordinator, Sorensen? Because we had that conversation with Steve Wilks immediately, but are we not going to have that conversation now? Because he fucking sucks.
Here's the thing, though. We don't know how much is it Sorensen, or is Brandon Staley back there really, controlling a lot of what's going on?
I have no idea. But either way, the brain trust that is Sorensen, Staley, like, it's not working out so far. Why do we have Devondre Campbell running with one-on-one in coverage when he really isn't that type of linebacker?
Should have called timeout there. We had Devondre Campbell on the sideline covering a tight end. Like, bro, I saw that motion and I was like, wait, really? Devondre Campbell's going to go out there and play cornerback right now?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. But on the other side, you're McVay, you're like, okay, we win this game, we make a really big swing in this NFC West, which could get away from us, because if you look at Seattle Seahawks are undefeated. The Cardinals have a really good offense. This is going to be a very competitive NFC West, and the Los Angeles Rams did their best to stay within contention, and they made a great move, and they end up winning the game.
Yeah, the other thing that I think has been the downside of the 49ers is Ayuk and Trent Williams not being up to speed after the sit-outs. Like, Trent Williams is not looking great. He's not looking good.
He's also He's getting banged up too.
Yeah, and Brandon Ayuk's dropping balls. I think honestly Brock Purdy hasn't trusted Ayuk as much, and that's why it feels like he's not going to him a bunch. I mean, there was a ball. Was it this week or last week where Brandon Ayuk's wide open down the seam, and Purdy just doesn't even look at him. So yeah. I think there's a trust thing there. I think there's getting back into the game speed thing, and like, what are we doing not letting these guys get into camp? I'm not worried about this team because I think they have so much talent. They're getting healthy that they're going to figure it out by the end. But it's like, man, like, we could have started off 3-0.
Yeah, and I think eventually, like, the way the schedule works, it's going to shape out. I mean, next they have the New England Patriots, who I think are going to walk through, and they're going to get healthy down the stretch. But it's like, you had a chance to overcome these injuries and walk away with a win. And that's, again, what good teams do. The Kansas City Chiefs, when they're playing their C+ game, B- game, they go out and get a win. The Minnesota Vikings go out there and get a win. Like, these teams that are good, that are expected to make a deep playoff run, go out there and just find ways to win. And it seems like when there is adversity for this 49er team, they just kind of crumble inward.
We'll see how it goes. All right, you guys, let us know how you're feeling in the comments. Please subscribe. We're almost to 500 subscribers, so we're trying to hit that. And make sure you comment. Did I say comment already?
It's all good.
Hit the like button.
Comment twice.
All right, see you guys.
Later.